Now, to follow up on the insurance side of this, thousands, so we'll find out soon precisely how many thousands of insurance claims have already gone in from people around the Sydney Basin and the north coast and mid-north coast of New South Wales. I'm joined now by Andrew Hall, who heads up the Insurance Council of Australia. Andrew, thanks for joining us. What's the latest count on the number of people already filing in to claim on their insurance?
Well, thank you, Chris. The latest numbers are around about 12,000 claims that have been lodged, but we expect those numbers to increase dramatically as the floodwaters recede and emergency authorities allow people to return to their properties. Insurers are standing by waiting to catch those claims as they come in, right from Taree, Kempsey, all that region through to the western areas of Sydney.
Now, the Prime Minister was talking earlier today about special measures being in place to try and handle these insurance claims more quickly. Can you explain how that plays out?
Well, the Insurance Council has the capacity to declare a catastrophe, which was done yesterday. That has activated a range of support services for policyholders in these areas. They get brought to the front of the queue in terms of their claims management. We've got teams of assessors that we will be bringing in to these regions, so all the insurance companies will have their assessors on the ground as soon as they're able to get in there and get claims activated. But if you or someone you know has been impacted by these floods, the critical thing now is to reach out and contact your insurer so you can understand what you may be eligible to claim, including short-term accommodation.
Now, we keep hearing instances of people who are living obviously close to rivers. The flood is such a threat that they can't get flood insurance, or it's $30,000 or $40,000 a year. Doesn't that tell us that the homes shouldn't be built there?
Well, we now have more than a century of data available to us, and we can really understand where should we be planning these suburbs. I mean, I just saw that package with the old homestead, and I suspect it was built once upon a time in a location before they understood fully what the impacts of the floods were. We now really do understand where do these floods occur in this country, and I think moving forward it's time that local, state and federal authorities worked better to share that data and make sure that land planning decisions are done with flooding and all those things in mind. And if we're going to build suburbs in those areas, we need to build the mitigation, we need to put up the flood levees, we need to make sure that somebody's home is protected.
Now, I've got to ask you about the flooding in the Windsor area and along the Hawkesbury and Nepean rivers, because there's a proposal afoot to increase the height of the Warragamba Dam by 14 metres, which experts say will help mitigate floods. A situation like this, it gives them much more room to play with to try and ease the flow and prevent this sort of flooding. But the Insurance Council and yourself on their behalf earlier this year came out against that plan. Why?
Well, the plan isn't finished. The work that the state government promised to do isn't yet completed. The EIS wasn't done, and we don't even know how much it's going to cost and whether it will fully protect the region. That is the issue, Chris. There are a lot of other tributaries that are flowing into the Hawkesbury and Nepean. I think that there needs to be a greater emphasis put on other flood mitigation options, and it's not for us to decide what that is. The government needs to come forward with those proposals. Cabinet at the state level, and probably with help from the federal authorities, need to make informed decisions about what will be the right measures. But you've also in your rejection of that project thus far have cited Indigenous cultural issues in the area, and as well as those environmental concerns you mentioned. Isn't exactly what we're seeing now demonstrating the need to increase the height of that dam wall? Well, Chris, there are a lot of issues surrounding the raising of the dam wall, none the least being the cost. We need to fully understand what the cost would be and whether that returns the benefit that we think is going to happen.
Well, look at the cost of it spilling over now.
Well, why were houses built there in the first place? So the state government does have a problem on its hands, and we stand ready with the data to work with state government on what makes sense around flood mitigation. But moving forward, Chris, we're waiting for a decision to be made by the New South Wales state government about what they actually want to do. They need to complete the EIS, they need to complete the cultural heritage studies, plus they also need to look at all the other possible alternatives there are to protecting those communities, including flood levees throughout that region.
Yeah, primarily, of course, they've got to look at whether it would make a situation like we're seeing at the moment easier to handle and less damaging, surely.
Well, there are other ways of managing Warragamba Dam also available, and at the moment it could be lowering the dam, the height of the water, and leaving some airspace for these major rain events. We do have desal and other things that can fill in for the time being. But again, all of those issues is something that government needs to come to a decision around, having done all the correct studies and having got all the right expert advice, because it's a very expensive project. And we all stand in unison with wanting to see mitigation and protection measures done for Western Sydney, but it needs to work.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, Andrew. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Chris.